This might be the best Pride film ever. It's called Gay USA, and it's a documentary film that takes place in 1977, and filmmaker Arthur J. Bresson Jr. utilized different camera crews throughout the country to capture this moment in time. Happy Pride Month. This is usually a time that I like to reflect back on what it means to be gay and how that fits within a larger context of the community, and I think this film really scratched that itch. It's a straightforward, simple documentary, but it's done very well. It's basically a non-stop Pride March for 78 minutes, and it features various B-roll shots, people holding up banners that they created, and soundbite interviews with the crowd, and of course on-camera interviews with people. And some of these interviews are incredibly insightful. I mean, earlier on, there's one with an old woman, and I thought she was going to say something really prejudiced, and she ends up saying something really profound and beautiful. But there are some contrarian, condescending interviews that happen, and I'm glad that the filmmaker did include these because it gives you an overall picture of how some people felt during that time about the community. And a lot of these interviews are incredibly positive, and it's probably because they're interviewing people that are part of the community, but there's this earnestness in their responses because I think it's a time before cameras were everywhere and people didn't feel like they have to put on a performative act. So you get incredible insight to some of these interviews from a perspective of somebody who might come from a conservative town and now they ended up at this particular Pride event and how they got there. And I just found that to be really interesting. There's also another standout interview where a person uses the word to describe their sexuality as pansexual. And I always thought that was more of a modern day word, and not that it was invented or anything, but we have now taken that word out of the dictionary and used it in modern context. But that's not the case. It's being used in the 70s there. There's also another great way to experience this movie, and I don't mean this in a disparaging way at all, but do you know, like at holiday parties, sometimes someone will put on the TV like the holiday log just in the background to give a sense of atmosphere? This film can work in that way, in that it doesn't necessarily have a traditional beginning, middle, and end, even though I did watch it that way, and it's rewarding to watch it that way. You don't necessarily have to pay full attention to it. You can have it on in the background and go up to it and get a little soundbite moment and then walk away. It has that decorative art quality to it, where it's just an endless flow. This film is a bit disappointing and humbling, and what I mean by that is because some of these talking points that people are being interviewed about are just really relevant today, and you like to think that we're so far removed from the 1970s, but a lot of this is still relevant. And if there's anything I've learned with being here on planet Earth so far, is that we should never take these leaps of progress for granted, and that these things can easily be taken away. And so it's wonderful that we can see something that took place in the 70s, even though I wasn't born there, but it does feel like a Pride event that could happen tomorrow. And that, to me, is very humbling. This film just gives you the sense of pride. It gives you that overall camaraderie feeling, and I love that about it, the purest form of what it means during this time of year, and how important it is to be part of a community and to feel good about who you are. And I think this movie not only encapsulates a very specific time in 1977, but it still has that spirit of what it feels like to go to a Pride event. Happy Pride, everybody.